Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. We have a lot to cover. Obviously, we'll be talking about Iran. We've got some New York State issues as well. First, we go to some viewer comments that we received after Friday's broadcast. Then we'll have a couple of just kind of updates on stories we've had for a while. First off, Ken wrote in at the end of the show on Friday, I sent in a suggestion to Jesse Waters Primetime. I suggested that they start a segment on the show to showcase conservative talk shows like Frankly Speaking to help push the conservative message, especially in New York. Well, thank you, Ken. I hope to hear from Jesse soon. A comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. It is a sincere testimonial told in the spirit of Easter, as many only know the name of this man-made holiday. In the spirit of Holy Week, the Passion of Christ, his suffering and resurrection. As for myself, I have a contrary esophagus, one which keeps me yet alive but emaciated, no more and no less than such. But during Holy Week, I experienced an epiphany of spiritual enlightenment, of spiritual growth, one of coming to understand more fully the passion of Christ and his love, not only for our Father in heaven, but also for the love he bears for us all. Considering that evil can never pull a soul directly into the darkness, but only by influencing a person's thoughts, a person's attitude through physical or mental ailment, can evil persuade a soul to darkness. That evil cannot directly blacken the soul is a result of free will. The free will God has given us to choose between what is good and what is evil, between what is right and what is wrong. For years I've suffered my contrary esophagus. This maddening malfunction is scientifically referred to as achalasia, similar to the ailment which aggrieves Secretary Kennedy, but not exactly so. Putting that aside, in contemplating the all-encompassed meaning of Holy Week, I discovered that I should be joyful of my affliction. Why should I be joyful of something that has caused great discomfort in my life, let alone that it could very well become a cause of death? It is as a result, I now know of being able to share in Christ's passion, as he was very much and brutally mistreated during Holy Week leading up to his crucifixion. I'm humbled having been allowed by the will of God this blessing he has bestowed on me to share in Christ's passion, to share in the suffering of Christ as he overcame and dominated evil. I will complain no longer of my ailment, but will instead pray only for the spiritual, daily bread nourishment of my soul. Thank you very much. Very appropriate. During Holy Week. Comment from Mark. He says, good morning. Well, good morning, Mark. President Trump gives Iran until tomorrow at 8 p.m. to open the Strait of Hormuz. If not, we will strike all their power plants and infrastructure, and Arab nations are calling for a 45-day ceasefire. Well, thank you, Mark. We're going to talk about that in depth. There's a lot to cover. I know I cannot repeat word for word what Trump posted at Truth Social, but we'll give you the censored version a little bit later on. First, as an update, Pope Leo warned yesterday that the world was becoming accustomed to violence in his Easter message. He delivered a rallying cry against war and hatred to the tens of thousands as the conflict rages in the Middle East. According to NBC, in his first to the city and the world message, the traditional blessing and message to the world, makes sense, the American-born Pope called upon humanity to abandon every desire for conflict, domination, and power, and said the world risks becoming indifferent to the deaths of thousands of people and the hatred and division that conflicts sow. Quote, let those who have weapons lay them down. Let those who have the power to unleash wars choose peace. Not a peace imposed by force, but through dialogue. We cannot continue to be indifferent, and we cannot resign ourselves to evil. Leo has consistently positioned himself as a critic of war and of political rhetoric that fuels it, addressing President Trump directly for the first time in the past week as he urged restraint and de-escalation in the war with Iran. Saying on Tuesday of last week, hopefully he's looking for an off-ramp. Hopefully he's looking for a way to decrease the amount of violence. There you go. All right, another update. What a weird headline. As we've got a couple media updates that I think are going to maybe get your blood boiling a little bit. But as Trump orders UFO data released, a question hangs. If aliens exist, what would they think of us? According to Corey Williams, that's the big question. A little bit of a ego here, huh? For generations, human beings have wondered, what would alien life from another planet be like? But we rarely ask the opposite. What would they think of us? It's a question that can produce some, uncomfortable answers if you happen to be an Earthling. Quote, if I were looking at Earth from a distance, I would be pretty disappointed, said theoretical physicist A.V. Loeb. Most of our investing is dealing with conflicts to prevent other people from killing us or us killing others. Look at the Ukraine war over a little bit of territory. That is not a sign of intelligence, end quote. The debate whether little green men or UFOs are among us escalated in February when former President Barack Obama responded to a podcaster's question saying aliens are, quote, real, but he hasn't seen them, and they're not being kept at Area 51. President Trump later announced on social media that he was directing release of government files because of tremendous interest, and we know that they registered the domain name aliens.gov. Stepping up interest in UFOs also is swirling as the U.S. heads back towards the moon with Wednesday's launch of Artemis 2. In a world riven by war, civil unrest, climate change, and divisiveness, it's easy to wonder what newcomers to planet Earth might make of us and our struggles. Whatever the case, well over a majority of Americans echo the sentiment of the slogan from the X-Files, the truth is out there. Okay. Well, Congress is demanding the Department of War release 46 secret UFO videos. Members of Congress are demanding 46 military videos from the Department of War, which insiders say offer convincing proof that advanced non-human craft are operating on Earth. Representative Anna Paulina Luna requested that long list of explosively titled files on Wednesday, which included 45 previously unreleased military clips. The presence of unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, that's the new term because I guess UFO became passé. In and around the sensitive airspaces of U.S. military installations poses a threat to the security of the armed forces and their readiness, according to a letter addressed to Secretary Pete Hegseth. Those with knowledge of the long list of videos, which includes titles like several UAP in vicinity of Columbus, Ohio airport and UFOs in formation over Persian Gulf, said the clips are, quote, shocking. You're going to see some weird blanking blank. Okay. A lot of cussing today. The wildest clips include radar footage from thermal sensors, satellite images, and underwater photos of swarms of unidentified submerged objects as well. One video shows several USOs going in and out of the water near a highly classified submarine, according to the source. Some of the clips are in clear, full color, setting them apart from previously released footage. None show alien creatures. Anyway. The military radar footage showed a small circular craft that is followed by a radar operator before it zooms off, demonstrating instantaneous acceleration, a marker of advanced science not known to man. Some crafts may have conventional explanations, such as secretive U.S. military projects. Congress is not going into the request blind, with two sources telling the Post moles within the intelligence community have eyes on the files being requested, and they'll blow the whistle if the videos are moved, altered, or deleted by anyone. The Department of War is expected to hand over the clips by April the 14th, according to the letter. Luna's office did not respond to a request for comment. So there's your alien update. We've been having an alien update about once a week, if not more. Now, we've got a couple of media updates. We are going to get into Iran and Trump's, I guess you could say, explosive Truth Social post. The deadline set for tomorrow at, 8 p.m., I believe it was. We're going to talk about that. Also, how am I doing on time? We're doing good. We do have a couple New York State updates. As you know, the budget was due on April 1st. It's nowhere near being done. We talked with Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski on the program on Friday. He did not have high hopes that the budget would be passed anytime soon. If you missed that interview, you can find it on our YouTube page. Later in this week, by the way, Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Sheriff Allard. I believe it's Thursday. We're going to be talking with Don Barlew from the Watkins Glen International Racetrack. As we know that the race has moved to Mother's Day weekend this year. So we will talk to her about that and how things change because of that. Okay. And like I said, I have a couple of media updates that we need to get to. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. We're just getting warmed up. And we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselsen's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselsen's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Discover how the right mattress can transform your day. At Raymore and Flanigan, we carry brands built for real rest, including the luxurious new King Coil mattresses by Drew and Jonathan Home, and the unparalleled value of our new line Sleep by Raymore and Flanigan. Ready to feel the difference? Visit a sleep center to take a free comfort test. From plush to firm and everything in between, we'll help you find your perfect match. Sleep better, feel better, live better. At Raymore and Flanigan.
When I came back to the States injured, I felt alone. It's like, we don't really have a need for you now. You're useless. If it hadn't been for Wounded Warrior Project, I honestly don't know if I would be here. I got my family back again. We all felt the connection, like that brother and sisterhood.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a quarter inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio here on Market Street in Corning. The Trump administration is arguing that a judge's order to halt the construction of the $400 million ballroom creates a security risk for the president. The Trump administration is demanding, in a motion filed Friday, the National Park Service says that the federal judge's order to suspend construction of the new facility is threatening grave national security harms to the White House, the president and his family, and the president's staff. Quote, time is of the essence, the lawyers write, citing materials that would be installed to make a heavily fortified facility. The ballroom construction also includes bomb shelters, military installations, and a medical facility, according to the filing. The ballroom is part of President Trump's plans to quickly remake Washington. What? That's a weird line in there from the Associated Press. The U.S. District Judge Richard Leon in Washington on Tuesday ordered the temporary pause of the construction project that has included demolishing the east wing of the White House. He concluded that unless Congress approves the project, the preservationist group suing to stop it is likely to succeed on the merits of its claims because, quote, no statute comes close to giving the president the authority he claims to have, end quote. The judge suspended enforcement of his order for 14 days, acknowledging that the administration would appeal his decision. Leon's ruling and the appeal came the same week a key agency tasked with approving construction on federal property in the Washington region gave final approval to the project. In his ruling, Leon suspended enforcement of his order, recognizing that halting an ongoing construction project may raise logistical issues. Leon also addressed national security in his ruling, saying that he reviewed information that the government privately submitted to him and concluded that halting construction wouldn't jeopardize national security. He exempted any construction work that is necessary for the safety and security of the White House from the scope of the injunction. Trump lashed out at the ruling, but also noted that it would allow work on underground bunkers and other security measures around the White House grounds to continue, even though, even though those will be paid for by taxpayers. Trump has pledged that he, along with private donors, will cover the cost of the ballroom construction. All right. Did you see over the weekend, as I mentioned, some pop culture media updates, Saturday Night Live joked over the weekend about the possibility of President Trump being assassinated, much to the delight of its far-left audience. They laughed and clapped like seals. The sick moment occurred during the show's Weekend Update segment when co-host Michael Che crowbarred the joke into a bit about the president attending a performance at the recently renamed Trump Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Quote, President Trump attended the opening night of Chicago at the Kennedy Center. And I think that's cool that the president is going to the theater. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Che said in a reference to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Che flashed a grin as the audience dutifully responded with an over-the-top guffaw, followed by a lengthy and enthusiastic round of applause. The camera then switched to segment co-host Colin Jost, who forced a toothy, "Oh no, he didn't" smile, looking side to side and throwing up his hands in feigned shock that his co-host would make such a joke. Now, we know President Trump has faced 2 assassination attempts during the 2024 campaign. But that passes for humor. Now, NPR, we're going to go through some media things here quickly. NPR, which a judge just recently ordered that I guess in what is their First Amendment rights, they should get taxpayer funding. Another activist judge ruling against Trump is quite a stretch in my opinion. But NPR didn't manage to quote a single member of the Michigan synagogue that was attacked last month by a crazed Hezbollah-supporting terrorist. But they did manage to track down his pals 6,000 miles away in Lebanon, a new report reveals. Now even NPR's public editor is criticizing the left-wing broadcaster for the stunning oversight. Instead of focusing on the victims in the heinous attack, a March 14th All Things Considered segment sent an NPR reporter to the Lebanon hometown of Ayman Ghazali, who just days earlier had rammed his truck into a Jewish preschool at Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township. The FBI later confirmed Ghazali, who killed himself after engaging in a firefight with a security guard, was inspired by the Iran-backed terrorist group. NPR headlined its article, "In a small Lebanese town, grief and fear follow the Michigan synagogue attack," resulting in listeners quickly calling out the publicly funded outlet for attempting to paint the terrorist and his family in a sympathetic light. One listener wrote sarcastically in a Substack post about the coverage that NPR found the real victim of an attack on 140 Jewish American babies, and it's the Hezbollah-infested town in Lebanon that raised the family of terrorists. Israeli Defense Forces revealed after the attack that Ghazali's brother was a Hezbollah commander. Another audience member, Richard Wilkins, took NPR to task for its one-sided coverage that downplayed the brother's known association with the terrorist group, saying NPR's reaction sympathized understanding for the subsequent grief and fear in his former hometown. Concealment of then public knowledge that these two brothers were Hezbollah terrorists in a town full of Hezbollah sympathizers. McBride began her response defending NPR. NPR's public editor, Kelly McBride, began her response defending NPR's reasoning for its reporting 6,000 miles away in Lebanon. Quote, "The journalistic purpose of the story was to explore the connections between the terror attack on the Michigan synagogue and the family that was killed on the other side of the world. Simply documenting that relationship and humanizing the family does not imply that Ghazali's attempts to kill more than 100 children was justified." She admitted that the network fell short in telling the full story. "This story on this village should not be judged as NPR's complete coverage of the Michigan synagogue. NPR ran multiple stories on the attack. In all that coverage, voices from Temple Israel are absent. I couldn't find any stories that quote rabbis, congregation members, or the families of the children who had to flee the building." She also acknowledged that parallel coverage by local news outlets did cover the congregation extensively. NPR or Michigan Public Radio pulled away from the story at Temple Israel too soon. She added, when important voices are missing from coverage, it distorts the audience perceptions of everything else. Again, proving their bias is so much so that their editor had to, I wouldn't say apologize, but give kind of a weak, maybe, apology. We have a couple of other quick media updates, a James Carville update for some reason, and then we're going to get into Iran. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, the Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
At Carr Phillips and Flint, we want people to know that we're a welcoming family.
We not only serve our community, but we live in our community. Our kids go to school here. It's not uncommon to see one of us at a local business or for a walk at a sporting event.
The community here and everything it has to offer, I can't think of a better place to raise my children.
We are a part of this community and we're invested in this community.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.
Dear Savvy, who says you can't have it all? You've got the tech. You've got the drive. And now you've got Toyota value. Lease the tech-savvy Corolla with 0 down or the all-hybrid Camry with 0 down and first month's payment due at signing. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
There are a lot of temptations facing young people today, like electronic cigarettes and skateboarding. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. This can lead today's youth to a lifelong addiction and severe lung damage. Recall and consider the facts before making a poor decision.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Start the conversation with your child about
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. I think that both Obama and the auto pen president both ignored federal judges' orders. What happened to them as a result? Were there any ramifications at all? If not, I would hope that President Trump tells this rogue judge, as well as the rest of them, where to go. Well, you raise a good point. One specifically that jumps out in my mind is Biden ignoring the judge's orders on college loans, forgiving college loan debt. He celebrated. He laughed at the Supreme Court. He would, at speeches, say, they told me I couldn't do it. I did it anyway. So, yeah, there was no ramifications. You're right. Hey, did you see, speaking of, we were talking about NPR, speaking of the news, a New York Times headline that laughably mischaracterized NATO as, quote, a North American treaty organization, drew widespread scorn over the weekend. The glaring mangling of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's name quickly spread across X. Within minutes, a post pointing out the erroneous error drew a wave of ridicule, disbelief, and anger. Much of it aimed not just at the mistake itself, but at what users framed as a broader failure in mainstream media. What a huge blanking typo, one user bluntly wrote. Another said the error was embarrassing and sad. The mistake was so amateurish that some even questioned whether the headline from Friday's print edition of the paper was even real. Is it real? I mean, it can't be, right? Said one user. This can't be real. Whoever wrote this headline needs to be fired. One commentator went so far as to suggest the headline was not only real, but a deliberate attempt to rewrite history. Quote, I think they've gotten so comfortable changing the meaning of words whenever they wanted to push a narrative that they figured it'd be okay to just change NATO from North Atlantic Treaty Organization to North American Treaty Organization. Others point out the error in direct terms, saying Atlantic, not American. The Times communications team replied to the X post that originally called out the error by noting that a correction will appear in Saturday's print edition. A headline with an article on Friday about President Trump's threats to leave NATO misstated the full name of the body. It is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, not the North American Treaty Organization. That's their mea culpa. Even President Trump called NATO out. The failing New York Times, whose lack of credibility and their constant fake news attacks on your favorite president, me, has caused its circulation to absolutely plummet, referred to our severely weakened and extremely unreliable quote-unquote partner NATO as the North American Treaty Organization. The correct name is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a very interesting mistake. The hiring and educational standards have gone way down at the New York Times. Bring back all the news that's fit to print and make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. So there you go. There's a couple updates. Oh, James Carville. I know we've been having updates on James Carville a lot, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think it's because he has a podcast, or he goes on a lot of podcasts, and he says some pretty wild things. He had a profanity-laced Good Friday message that he posted to YouTube, questioning Trump's suitability for office and taunting his eroding polling numbers, in a rant that quickly escalated in tone. You sit down and you listen to me, you fat blank. I told you that you'd be gone by April Fools of 2027. I'm getting a little worried. I've got to tell you, I watched that word mash you had the night before last, I guess it was. Man, I've got to tell you, don't go throw the blanking number on me before the election, because I want you to very, very be aware on election night when people tell you what the blank they are thinking of you. They hate you. Everybody hates you. What's your floor? Some people say it's 33. Well, now it's 35. You might go through the floor, because all you're going to have left is hardcore MAGA, and frankly, we're glad to have all the people that are now admitting that voting for you was a huge mistake. You watch these videos of people saying, I can't believe I voted for that guy. Well, you did, but welcome back. The former Clinton strategist continued his scathing critique, telling Trump not to, quote, croak, so he could witness what Carville predicted would be unraveling of his administration. Don't croak on me. Don't do that, because I want you alive when all this blank happens to you. He then pivoted to a rapid-fire list of grievances with Trump's team, including War Secretary Pete Hegseth, suggesting the president has no idea how to manage his administration. It's just started. It's just starting, dude. It's just started. You don't have any idea the pleasure people take. The best way I could advise you to be a better person is to do everything you can to get rid of this blank. It's scary, the Trump derangement syndrome. He admitted it. He prayed, if you recall, I mentioned on the program weeks ago, he prayed that God, and he was being serious, that God would fill him with more hatred for Trump. I mean, talk about going off the deep end with their hatred of the president. So that's your Good Friday message to the world? It is unbelievable. Now, let's talk about Iran. Trump gives Iran a Tuesday evening deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz. According to an interview he gave to the Wall Street Journal yesterday, if they don't do something by Tuesday evening, they don't have any power plants and they won't have any bridges standing. Trump later posted on social media, without mentioning Iran or any other details, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Representatives for the White House could not be immediately reached for comment on the post. In a separate post earlier on Sunday, Trump had said Iran would face infrastructure attacks if it did not open the strait by Tuesday, but gave no specific time. So now it is at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Now, a lot of people in the media and on the left are criticizing Trump's Truth Social post from over the weekend, where he said Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up into one in Iran. There'll be nothing like it. Open the blanking straight, you crazy blanks, or you'll be living in heck. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. Iran's embassy in the UK replied to Trump's post, quoting Mark Twain, saying it is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. Explaining his hopes that a deal can be reached before Tuesday's deadline, Trump told Fox News, "I think there is a good chance tomorrow they are negotiating now. If Iran fails to make a deal," Trump said, "you're going to see bridges and power plants dropping all over their country. If they don't make a deal and fast, I'm considering blowing everything up and taking over the oil." Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says Trump's reckless moves are dragging the United States into a living heck for every single family. "Make no mistake, you won't gain anything through war crimes." He said the only real reason is respecting the rights of the Iranian people and ending this dangerous game. Amnesty International also responded to Trump's expletive-laden post, saying, "What a revolting message." In a post on X, Secretary General Agnes Calmard said Iranian civilians will be the first to suffer from the destruction of power plants and bridges. No more electricity, heating, or water, unable to flee the attacks, potential cascading war crimes. Trump's latest rant on Truth Social came the day after he issued a 48-hour deadline in another error-strewn message. "Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out. 48 hours before all heck will rain down on them. Glory be to God, President Donald J. Trump." So some are saying, like I said, well, listen to this headline. We mentioned the New York Times embarrassing themselves with that misworded NATO headline. How about this? Trump revels in threats to commit war crimes in Iran. President Trump has said he will bomb Iran back to the Stone Ages, threatening to destroy power plants, bridges, and more. Such destruction would cause widespread suffering among civilians and in most cases would be considered a war crime under international law. No other recent American president has talked so openly about committing potential war crimes, experts say. Well, it's interesting now that the media cares about the residents of Iran, isn't it? Because before, whether it's the protesters, whether it's all the people that lectured us about Israel with their anti-Semitic messages, nothing was silenced when it came to the residents of Iran. Now that President Trump has threatened to bomb infrastructure, now they are very concerned about the civilians in Iran. So Trump revels in threats to commit war crime in Iran. That's according to the New York Times. Now, numerous Democrat lawmakers are questioning President Trump's mental acuity, and some are even ramping up their calls for him to be removed from office via the 25th Amendment following his stunning new threat to Iran. Now, again, I don't think they realize the damage that they do to themselves in the Democrat Party when people have, it's still fresh in their memory, that for 4 years we were lectured that Biden was sharp as a tack, that you couldn't question his mental acuity. You couldn't, if you did, you were a conspiracy theorist, you would be attacked. Then, of course, we all saw the debate, and they had to oust him. But for now they're lecturing us that Trump has those same people, has some issue with mental acuity. The outcry from Democrats follows the president's Sunday morning post on Truth Social, in which he threatened to go after Iran's power plants and bridges should the Strait of Hormuz not be reopened by Tuesday. Bernie Sanders said these are the ravings of a dangerous and mentally unbalanced individual. Congress has got to act now, end this war. Representative Becca Balint from Vermont, appearing on MSN Now's This Weekend, said, "It is something that is such an indication to me that my Republican colleagues have accepted for themselves that there is no bottom. They will continue to support this man regardless of how unhinged and unfit he is for office." Senator Chris Murphy went a step further, saying, "If I were in Trump's cabinet, I would spend Easter calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment. This is completely, utterly unhinged. He's already killed thousands. He's going to kill thousands more." Maxine Dexter, representative from Oregon, said Republicans need to act to save our nation. DJT is clearly unfit for office. His Truth Social post is incomprehensibly dangerous and unhinged. The GOP is complicit and must wake up from their stupor to save our nation. Chuck Schumer wouldn't go quite as far as some of his colleagues, but he did say the President of the United States is ranting like an unhinged madman on social media. He is threatening possible war crimes and alienating allies. This is who he is, but this is not who we are. Our country deserves so much better. According to Chris, well, we got to take a short break. A little bit more on this when we return, then more on Iran. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Ferrari Auto Team!
The best chicken wings?
Ask Google. The best driving range? Ask Google.
The best Jeep dealer?
Ask Google. We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Jeep in Elmira the highest Jeep dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Jeeps during our Declaration of Deals event.
Visit Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
Good job, buddy. Hey, buddy. It's time. Gotta go. Listen, I could be there in 15 minutes. Yep, see you soon. All right, you know the drill. Your brother could always do it. That's what I thought.
I just wanted to stop.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a quarter inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. They consider, this is a piece by Christopher Buckton, talking about President Trump's tweet posted in a frenzy laced with threats, profanity, and mockery. It reads less like the considered voice of the leader of the free world and more like the rant of a barroom bully spoiling for a fight. And yet this is Donald Trump, the President of the United States, broadcasting to the world. This is what American leadership looks like now. The post lays bare something far more dangerous than bluster. It shows a man losing control of events, of strategy, and increasingly of himself. Trump is not projecting strength, he is flailing, lashing out at the consequences of a war he recklessly and needlessly escalated begin to close in around him. Because that is the truth Trump cannot hide. The escalator in chief has now backed himself into a corner from which there is no easy escape. Either he follows through on his threats, escalating the conflict further, risking a catastrophic regional war that could engulf the Middle East and send shockwaves across the world, or he backs down again, declares some hollow victory, and exposes the emptiness of his own rhetoric. Neither path is strong, both are failures. For a man who built his image on dominance, this is the ultimate trap. Trump has spent a lifetime bullying his way through problems, threatening, bullying, paying off, and walking away. That may have worked in a business deal and reality TV theatrics. It doesn't work on the world stage. Iran is not a contractor to be intimidated. The Middle East is not a boardroom to be cleared with a raised voice and a check. And now, faced with the reality, Trump is resorting to the only playbook he knows, escalating the language, raise the stakes, and hope the other side blinks first. But this is not a game. The language itself should alarm anyone paying attention. The profanity, the threats, the crude Islamophobia of praise be to Allah dropped into a tirade aimed at a Muslim nation. It reeks of ignorance at best and something far uglier at worst. It is not diplomacy. It is provocation wrapped in the language of mockery and menace. It is beneath, the office he holds. More than that, it is dangerous because words from the President of the United States carry weight. They signal intent. They shape perception. They can calm a crisis or inflame it. And in this case, Trump has chosen to inflame. It is not an isolated outburst. It fits a pattern that is becoming harder to ignore. Trump rose to power in part by attacking his predecessor, Joe Biden, over his mental fragility, weaponizing age in a way that many found grotesque but politically effective. He painted himself as a strong, decisive alternative. So do you notice how they still say questioning Biden's mental health is somehow grotesque? Where is it here? Now the question is being asked in earnest. What about Trump? Because posts like this do not project strength. They suggest instability. They suggest a leader untethered from the gravity of the moment. Someone who treats war like a spectacle and threats like punchlines. Even his closest confidants must be asked where this is headed. Meanwhile, the stakes could not be higher. America's troops are already in harm's way. The conflict is spreading. Markets are jittery. Allies are uneasy. Adversaries are watching. And at the center of it all is a man issuing threats that sound less like strategy and more like a dare. It is how crises spiral. The biggest part of the reality is this. Trump created this moment. He chose escalation over restraint. He chose confrontation over clarity. And now, with no clear endgame, he is improvising in public, and the world is left to deal with the consequences. And it raises a question that can no longer be avoided. At what point does America decide enough is enough? Because this is not normal. It is not acceptable, and it is not sustainable. The United States is not meant to be run like this, with foreign policy dictated by social media rants and threats that read as if they belong on a pub wall rather than in global diplomacy. There is too much at stake. The world is watching a president who appears increasingly boxed in, increasingly desperate, and increasingly volatile. A man who promised to end wars now appears trapped in one, with no clear way out and no sign he understands the danger he is fueling. History will judge this moment, but the question for America is whether it's prepared to act before the judgment is written. Because leaving a situation like this to run its course is not strength. It is abdication, and the cost could be catastrophic. There you are. All right. Comments. We got a couple comments from viewers. Holy smokes, I can't believe the hypocrisy of the fake news as well as the Democrats as a whole, barring Fetterman. Yes, the hypocrisy. That's why I mentioned those quotes. I mean, I know it gets you a little bit worked up, I'm sure. Well, that's why it's worth mentioning the hypocrisy that they don't even hide. I mean, right in your face. Now, U.S. and Israel airstrikes are battering Iran as Trump's Strait of Hormuz deadline is looming. Israel and the United States carried out a wave of attacks early this morning that killed more than 25 people in Iran. Tehran responded with missile fire on Israel and its Gulf Arab neighbors as U.S. President Donald Trump's deadline for Tehran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz loomed. Explosions rang out into the night in Tehran, and low-flying jets could be heard for hours as the capital was pounded. Thick black smoke rose near the city's Azadi Square after one airstrike hit the Sharif University of Technology grounds. 2 people were found dead in the rubble of a residential building in Haifa, according to Israeli authorities. The search was ongoing for 2 more, even as new Iranian missile attacks hit the northern Israel city early on Monday. Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates both activated their air defense systems to intercept incoming Iranian missiles and drones as Tehran kept up the pressure on its Gulf neighbors. Iran's regular attacks on regional energy infrastructure and its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of the world's oil is shipped in peacetime, has sent global energy prices soaring. Under pressure at home as consumers are growing increasingly concerned, Trump gave Tehran a deadline that expires Monday night, Washington time, saying if no deal was reached to reopen the strait, the U.S. would hit Iran's power plants. Oh, is it Tuesday? No, yeah, it was Tuesday at 8 p.m., not today. Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up into one. Tehran has shown no signs of backing down off its stranglehold on shipping through the strait, which was fully open before Israel and the U.S. attacked Iran on February 28th to start the war. Following Trump's expletive-laced post on Easter Sunday, Iran's parliamentary speaker called the threats of targeting Iran's infrastructure reckless. You won't gain anything through war crimes. The only real solution is respecting the rights of the Iranian people and ending this dangerous game. Brent crude oil, the international standard, rose to $109 in early Monday spot trading, some 50% higher than it was when the war started. Iran has let some vessels through the strait since the war began, but none belong to the U.S., Israel, or countries perceived as helping them. Some have paid Iran for passage, and the overall flow of traffic is down more than 90% over the same time last year. Beyond Trump's military threats, diplomatic efforts are still underway to see if a solution can be reached to open the waterway. Oman's foreign minister said the deputy foreign minister and experts from Iran and Oman meant to discuss proposals to ensure smooth transit through the strait. One of Monday's morning's airstrikes targeted Tehran's Sharif University of Technology, where Iranian media reported damage to the building as well as a natural gas distribution site next to the campus. It wasn't immediately clear what had been targeting on the grounds of the university, which is empty of students, as the war has forced all schools in the country into online classes. However, multiple countries over the years have sanctioned the university for its work with the military, particularly on Iran's ballistic missile program, which is controlled by the country's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. A strike in the southwest of Tehran killed at least 13 people, the semi-official Fars news agency reported. 5 others were killed when a residential area in the city of Qom was hit, and 6 more were killed in strikes on other cities, the state-run Iran Daily newspaper reported. More than 1,900 people have been killed in Iran since the war began, but its government has not updated the toll for days. All right, so there's a quick update. We got some comments. We got some other Iran updates, a couple New York updates, so stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lecom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Marseille is a veteran. He was a combat medic in the Army.
I did tours in Korea, Germany, and Bosnia before I got injured.
There's been a lot of wear and tear on his body.
My knees are bone on bone from doing all those jumps and lugging my backpack and all that gear around. I was also exposed to toxins.
When Yusuf got out of the military, he needed help getting his disability benefits.
Luckily, DAV came to the rescue. They fought for me the same way that I fought for my country.
Every year, DAV provides life-changing support to more than 1 million veterans like Yusuf, helping them get the benefits they've earned so they can achieve victories, great and small.
Now Yusuf is paying it forward. DAV has been instrumental in helping him start 2 healthcare technology companies that are working to help veterans everywhere.
My victory is never giving up and finding more ways to serve.
He's pretty amazing.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, listening to Fox and the Sunday shows, this is a brief synopsis of what critical thinkers heard and what the sheeple heard. Critical thinker, it became clear that Iran was just running out the clock during talks, so we went in to eliminate their nuclear program, take away any enriched uranium, eliminate their ICBM supply and manufacturing capabilities and drone manufacturing capabilities. If you're a sheeple that was watching, Trump has no plan. Critical thinker, we have a deadline of 10 days for the Strait of Hormuz to open, or we'll start targeting power plants if it isn't. Sheeple, Trump has hopelessly lost the Strait of Hormuz. The world will suffer from this. It's a win for Iran. A critical thinker would see we have decimated Iran. Their planes are gone, missiles in short supply, munition factories are destroyed, their navy is almost gone, their leaders are dead or in hiding, bridges destroyed, and power plants are next. The sheeple would think we are losing this war. Iran is coming out as the winner. Critical thinker, we are in talks and the war will be ending in weeks, not months. Sheeple, Trump has no exit strategy. Yeah, I mean, isn't that really what the coverage has been, thank you, Ken, all morning and what I've been reading. You're exactly right. Mark writes in, let's have some fun. Who thinks Trump will order an attack on Iran on Tuesday night, or is he bluffing to get a deal? Good question, Mark. We'll pose that to the viewers. Is an attack going to happen tomorrow on Iran, or is Trump bluffing to get a deal? Now, OPEC has agreed on Sunday to raise its oil output quotas by 206,000 barrels per day for May, a modest rise that will largely exist on paper as its key members are unable to raise production due to the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. The war has effectively shut the Strait of Hormuz, as we know. But crude prices have surged to a 4-year high, close to $120 a barrel, translating into soaring prices for transport fuels, which are pressuring consumers and businesses across the globe and triggering government action to conserve supplies. The OPEC quota increase of 206,000 BPD represents less than 2% of the supply disrupted by the Hormuz closure, but it signals readiness to raise output once the waterway reopens. Consultancy Energy Aspects call the increase academic as long as disruptions in the strait persist. Now, Israel did kill a senior Iranian security official, it is being reported. According to both Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, Major General Majid Kadhimi, head of intelligence for the IRGC, was assassinated early Monday, according to a report from the guards. The IRGC described him as a highly esteemed commander who had devoted nearly half a century of loyal and courageous service to the revolution. Israel has targeted dozens of senior officials in the IRGC since the conflict began. Katz said Kadhimi was one of those directly responsible for the deaths of Israeli civilians and one of the 3 most senior figures in the IRGC. Iran's leaders are living with a sense of persecution. We'll continue to hunt them down one by one. He added that Israel's strikes had severely damaged Iran's steel and infrastructure and the petrochemical industry, and today and every day there will be more to come. All right, we got to take a short break, and then we're going to wrap up our number one. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you spend 100 years building chainsaws, you get really good at building chainsaws. So when steel built the mower, we built the chainsaw mowers. New blade, same bloodline.
Hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselson's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselson's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a 1/4 inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark asked a question: do you think Trump will order an attack on Iran on Tuesday night, or is he bluffing to get a deal? This viewer said, given the uncharacteristic recent expletive nature of Trump, I believe he is going to rain heck, we'll say, on Iran. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Remember when they removed Trump from Twitter because the American people couldn't possibly handle what he had to say? Now they draw attention to his true social posts like it's must-hear news. And now that he dropped a Democrat password that they use all the time, he's off the rails. Yes, they want to present him as being off the rails. U.S. and Iran receive a plan to end hostilities and immediate ceasefire that would come into effect on Monday and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a source aware of the proposal said early this morning. A framework to end hostilities has been put together by Pakistan in exchange with Iran and the U.S. overnight, outlining a two-tier approach with an immediate ceasefire followed by a comprehensive agreement. All elements need to be agreed today, the source added, that the initial understanding would be structured as a memorandum of understanding finalized electronically through Pakistan, the sole communications channel in the talks. Axios first reported on Sunday that the U.S., Iran, and regional mediators were discussing a potential 45-day ceasefire as part of a two-phase deal that could lead to a permanent end to the war, citing U.S., Israel, and regional sources. The source told Reuters Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Azim Munir, had been in contact all night with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Under the proposal, a ceasefire would take effect immediately, reopening the Strait of Hormuz with 15 to 20 days to finalize a broader agreement. The deal, tentatively dubbed the Islamabad Accord, would include a regional framework for the strait with final in-person talks in Islamabad. There was no immediate response from U.S. and Iranian officials. Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson Tahir Adrabi declined comment. Iran officials had previously told Reuters that Tehran was seeking a permanent ceasefire with guarantees it will not be attacked again by the U.S. and Israel. They have said Iran has received messages from mediators, including Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt. The final agreement is expected to include Iranian commitments not to pursue nuclear weapons in exchange for sanctions relief and the release of frozen assets. Two Pakistani sources said Iran is yet to commit despite intensified civilian and military outreach. Iran has not responded yet, one source said. There was no immediate response from Chinese officials to requests for comment. The latest diplomatic push comes amid escalating hostilities that have raised concerns over disruption to shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for global oil supplies. All right, that does it for our number one. So again, Mark asks the question, will Trump order an attack on Iran on Tuesday night, 8 p.m., or is he bluffing to get a deal? That is the question. We got some other updates on Iran. We got a couple of New York State updates as well. And as always, we'll keep checking for breaking news throughout the broadcast. With the time over there in Iran, and sometimes we hit that breaking news during the program. So if you see anything, let me know. But we got a lot left to talk about. It's hard to believe hour number one is in the books. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. As I said on this week's program, on Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Sheriff Jim Allard. Don't miss that. Thursday, we're going to be talking with Don Berlew from Watkins Glen International. I think I have a couple other guests. I just don't have my calendar in front of me. So if you have any questions for Don Berlew, or if you have any questions for Sheriff Allard, you can get those to me ahead of time, and I'll add them to the list. I would appreciate that. But as I said, hour number one in the books. Hour number two moments away. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Bob has a moment where it could slow down, or it could keep moving. At D&L Supply and Rental, we focus on what actually matters, keeping your momentum. From emergency rentals to weekend projects, we make it easy, we make it fast, we make it right. Less downtime, because our team knows the job, has what you need, and gets it to you even on Saturdays. D&L, built for momentum.
There have always
always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio in the historic Gaffer District right here on Market Street. We were talking about Iran. It's really interesting when you find out about the pilot that went down. The tough as nails U.S. Air Force colonel that was shot down over Iran was seriously wounded, but still climbed a 7,000-foot ridge and hid in a crevice to evade capture for 36 hours, even with bounty hunters on his tail. The cool as a cucumber American hero, who is yet to be publicly identified, spent 1.5 days hiding in the Zagros Mountains range and dodging the enemy after his F-15E went down in hostile territory on Friday. Despite his injuries, the weapons officer was able to climb more than 1.3 miles and avoid detection from bloodthirsty nearby Iranian fighters, spurred by the chance to capture an American soldier and the $60,000 bounty placed on his head. President Trump told Axios, saying thousands of these savages were hunting him down. The officer was armed with only a handgun as he awaited rescue, which occurred partly thanks to the emergency beacon he sent out from a crevice along a mountain early Sunday local time, according to CBS News. Trump and his team initially feared that the signal could be a trap to lure more American soldiers into a dangerous situation. A U.S. defense official said that before the colonel's extraction, the weapons officer submitted a short, unusual message over the radio that said, "God is good." When he said on the radio, sounded like something a Muslim would say, Trump told Axios. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted the same phrase, "God is good," on X after the hero was rescued. The officer's pilot had already been rescued just hours after the F-15E was shot down. It's not clear what injuries the colonel suffered, but they have been described as serious by U.S. officials. With the help of the CIA, military officials were able to track the colonel's equipment to his exact location and confirm his status. Along with helping tracking the officer, the CIA pulled off a diversion tactic that saw the U.S. plant fake intel that the soldier had already been rescued and was being driven out of Iran. When it was time to act, a massive broad daylight operation was launched involving dozens of aircrafts and MQ-9 Reaper drones, providing a protective perimeter and striking any hostile forces that got within 2 miles of the airman's position. According to the Jerusalem Post, the complex operation involved 100 special operations forces led by SEAL Team 6 with Delta Force commandos and Army Rangers on standby. U.S. Special Ops commandos also engaged in skirmishes with local tribesmen during the hunt for the pilot. The rescue mission ran into last-minute trouble when 2 aircraft stationed with a force just south of the city became stuck, forcing the U.S. to dispatch 3 more aircrafts to pick up the stranded forces and destroy the trapped vehicles, lest they fall into the enemy's hands. The injured airmen had been flown to Kuwait for medical treatment in a rescue plane. Trump, who boasted about the rescue Sunday, said he would hold a news conference with the military at the Oval Office today at 1 p.m. about the successful operation. So we'll keep an eye on that. A former Pentagon official said the rescue of the U.S. airmen in Iran served as more than a recovery mission, saying it was a warning to Tehran that the U.S. can penetrate anywhere in Iranian territory to carry out operations ranging from rescues to securing sensitive targets. Brent Sadler, a retired Navy captain, said this demonstrates to the Iranian leadership that we can get anywhere that we so choose and hold ground as long as we desire to accomplish a mission. Not only can we rescue our pilot, but we can also go to where we need to secure nuclear equipment or the remainder of their leadership. Sandler's comments come after that rescue that I just mentioned. Sandler said that there had been reports that the intelligence agencies and special forces from various military services were involved in the operation, and that America's regional allies also played a part, saying, quote, "Our Gulf partners would have to have been given some clearance for the aircraft to fly through. They wouldn't know what it was for, and of course the Israelis, I think they were deeply integrated into this, to shift their targets and their attacks so that it would draw the Iranians away or keep them busy as we focused on locating our pilot. Sandler added that the daring operation dashed any hopes Iran had of using the downed airmen for political purposes or to stop U.S. military operations, and said the successful rescue mission should underscore the seriousness of President Trump's Monday deadline. Despite going and hunting down and successfully exfiltrating our pilot, the operations and the attacks continued, which means the deadline that President Trump has given is a very serious, and the regime in Tehran better take it as such, because there's a lot more that's coming their way, if not. So they're calling it one of the most challenging, complex missions in special ops history. Trump taking to Truth Social, saying, "We got him." One of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history, adding that the wounded officer is now safe and sound. According to Axios, U.S. officials initially feared that they were being drawn into a trap, as I mentioned. Those concerns intensified after the airman transmitted a brief and unusual message over the radio, described by Trump as "power be to God," and confirmed by a U.S. defense official as "God is good." Trump said the phrasing initially raised alarm because it sounded like something a, quote, Muslim would say, prompting concern that the signal might not be authentic. Officials ultimately determined the transmission aligned with the airman's personal background, with those familiar with him confirming he is a religious individual, helping verify that he was alive and not in enemy custody. A U.S. defense official said it was not completely clear early on, but we stuck with it and verified he was alive and not captured. Because the airman limited his beacon transmissions, standard protocol designed to avoid detection, U.S. forces had only brief windows to track his location, making confirmation of his identity and status the central challenge to the mission. At CIA headquarters in Langley, analysts worked to resolve what one official described as an ultimate needle in a haystack scenario, using specialized and classified capabilities to verify the authenticity of the airman's signals and help pinpoint his location. At the same time, according to the New York Times, the CIA implemented a deception effort by spreading information inside Iran, suggesting the airman had already been recovered and was being moved out by ground convoy, diverting Iranian search efforts away from his actual location. Once the airman's position was confirmed, U.S. military planners assembled a large-scale rescue force that a senior official described as one of the most challenging, complex missions in the history of U.S. special operations. The operation involved around 200 special operations personnel, including elements of SEAL Team 6, supported by a broad array of aircraft, providing intelligence, surveillance, and strike capabilities. According to Fox News, U.S. forces conducted extensive airstrikes across the surrounding area using multiple platforms to prevent Iranian units from reaching the airmen, while MQ-9 Reaper drones and other surveillance assets tracked movement on the ground in real time. A source familiar with the operation told Veterans War Correspondent Toby Harden that U.S. forces were actively engaging Iranian elements pursuing the airmen. U.S. officials also indicated that Israel provided limited support during the operation. Trump said the Israelis helped a little bit, while a U.S. defense official said Israel shared general intelligence about conditions on the ground, but did not provide the airmen's location. Israel officials said that the Israeli Air Force conducted at least one strike to prevent Iranian forces from advancing towards the extraction zone. Feels like if it wasn't under the Trump administration, it feels like it would probably be made into a movie. Seeing that it's under the Trump administration, we probably won't. But the New York Post editorial board said, "We got him," cheered the president, in all caps, naturally. After a spectacular made-for-Hollywood rescue mission behind enemy lines recovered a U.S. crewman from a downed U.S. fighter jet. Indeed, it's cause to cheer. That operation should remove any last shreds of doubt about America's dominance and superiority in the Iran war. Military officials are counting it among the most challenging and complex rescue missions in the history of U.S. special operations. And it's obvious why. The airman was injured, yet still managed to climb a 7,000-foot ridge and evade capture for nearly 2 days. He had a beacon that could let U.S. forces know where he was, but he didn't use it for fear of alerting the enemy to his location. The area is mountainous, and Iranian forces were closing in. His rescue, which followed that of his crewmate on Friday after both men ejected from their F-15E Strike Eagle, which had been hit, became the military's highest priority. It deployed hundreds of special op forces and other military personnel and dozens of aircraft in the operation and relied on space, cyber, Israeli, and other intel capabilities. The CIA, too, played a key role, including by staging a decoy operation to fool Iranian troops into thinking the airman had already been rescued and was headed out of the country in a convoy. Sure enough, America prevailed, not only recovering all 3 crewmen from the 2 planes, but avoiding any other casualties in the rescue operation. U.S. prowess, from the military's awesome logistical and tactical abilities to the numerous military groups involved and the phenomenal skills of the airman himself truly shined. That should eliminate any second thoughts about whether America can win this war. Sure, the downing of the jet and then a second plane that was involved in the search for the airmen boosted critics' claim that Iran is still able to inflict damage despite weeks of U.S.-Israeli airstrikes. But put that into perspective. The 2 planes were hit by Iranian fire after thousands of sorties, meaning more than 99.9% have been able to return safely. The U.S.-Israeli attack, by contrast, have degraded Iran's military dramatically. Its navy is shattered, its missiles, launchers, and drones greatly depleted, its weapons and ship productions facilities badly damaged. Trump last week noted that he planned to finish the job in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The goal is to remove Iran's ability to restore its nuclear program behind a conventional weapons shield, And the hope is that if Iran's military, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the police goons that repress the public are sufficiently degraded, Iranians can install new leaders themselves to run the country. Meanwhile, Trump has threatened to ramp up attacks further if Iran refuses to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump has been right along with the need for this war. Allowing a sick Iranian regime to acquire nukes would be utter insanity. Trump vowed to not let that happen, and he's keeping his word. The stunning rescue mission are just more grounds not to go wobbly now. Thought that was a good one. We got a couple other comments on this. I do have a piece that I want to get to. Martin Guri, put together kind of the top 10 questions about the Iran war. And I think it's very helpful to look at as we prepare for what could be, I guess for lack of a better word, an escalation. We have a couple things here about Pam Bondi. There's reports behind the scenes that Trump is looking to shake up some more cabinet members. I don't know how much of that is accurate or how much that's just the media wanting to push a narrative. But of course, last week we lost Pam Bondi from the cabinet. 2 weeks before that, probably Kristi Noem. So we could talk about that as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. With Easter coming, what better way to make every day better than with a Hesselson's hot tub? During these uncertain, stressful times, what better way to relieve tension and relax those achy muscles? During Easter week, free chemicals and free steps, and the new and innovative energy-efficient smart top and hydraulic lift systems are just half price. Plus, huge, unprecedented discounts on 2025 models as factory reps will be on hand. Hesselson's Easter week hot tub sale is going on now through Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a quarter inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Jack writes in and says, "Good morning, Frank." Well, good morning, Jack. "I was wondering if you see a better way for Trump to handle the Iranian situation. Trump has fallen into a trap caught between his undeniable self-pride and the product of his action. I pray that he has a sleight of hand action that is currently being hidden for security reasons. Short of an alien invasion diversion, I just don't see a favorable outcome. Was wondering if you had any ideas as to what would put this country back on the path when we were all so proud of Trump's actions. I want the old Trump train back on the tracks." Jack also writes, "I was wondering if there was a way for us to fight fire with fire and cut off the Iranian shipments of oil, or are they already cut off?" That's a great question. I don't have the answer for that. I don't really have an answer for your other question either, Jack. I will say I think it's one of these scenarios where we have to be patient. I know some people aren't happy with the Iranian situation, but it's interesting. We'll see after tomorrow at 8 p.m. Where it's headed. On ABC's This Week, Representative Mike Turner said the Trump administration's military strikes in Iran had ended its ability to become a nuclear power. In any conflict, certainly, Iran is going to have some things that they're going to be able to do during the conflict. But if you don't understand the conflict, if you just step back and watch as the Obama administration was going to do while Iran became a nuclear power and they become North Korea, we wouldn't be looking at the Strait of Hormuz. We'd be looking at what's, having Europe be at risk. You'd have the United States being at risk. You'd have all of our allies and ultimately the continental United States at risk from Iran and the whole world being held hostage by a terrorist state. In this, as they in their last throes, begin to do whatever they have left as state militarily, they still are being significantly diminished, and their ability to be able to march toward a nuclear state is being eliminated. Dave McCormick from Pennsylvania said, "Well, I think we really have to step back. 5 presidents have essentially said that we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and that Iran building up its capabilities in the region has to be checked. And this president has taken leadership to systematically eliminate this threat to America's allies, to the American people. No country has more blood on its hands than Iran. And I think we made an enormous progress by any measure at the military objectives the president has laid out, which was destroy the missiles, the drones, and interceptors, the Navy, and the manufacturing capabilities, and ensure that Iran doesn't have a power to a nuclear weapon. Clearly, there's more work to be done. But by any measure, if on the first day when President Trump at 2:30 in the morning announced his military objectives, we would say it's been an extraordinary success. And we also have eliminated 3 layers of Iranian leadership. But clearly, there's more work to do. And just imagine a scenario where the president hadn't made this decision to intervene, and Iran would have had 3 more years of building its ballistic missile capability and building its nuclear program. That missile that was lobbed 2,500 miles into Diego Garcia could have easily had a nuclear warhead on it. So this was never going to be easy. This is a very sophisticated military, and in a very well-established military that's been decades to build its capabilities. But we've made unprecedented progress, and I think we're much closer to the end than at the beginning of this conflict. But there's still more work to do." Hakeem Jeffries on ABC's This Week said, "Well, I'm thankful that a second U.S. airman has been rescued heroically by our special forces. And we, of course, continue to pray for the safety, the health, the well-being of all of our men and women who are in uniform in a very dangerous theater of war. Of course, Donald Trump has gotten us involved in this reckless war of choice without any plan, any strategic objectives, and no clear exit strategy. Instead, billions of dollars are being spent every day to drop bombs in the Middle East when Donald Trump, as a candidate, promised to never get us involved in this type of conflict." So George Stephanopoulos said, "So you're made it clear you're opposed to the war, but what should the exit strategy be right now?" Jeffrey said, "That's a challenge, of course. Donald Trump has gotten us into this reckless war of choice without ever clearly laying out the strategic objectives. The plan, how this is designed to actually make life better for the American people. We've seen the exact opposite, particularly as it relates to the dramatic increase in gas prices when we are already dealing with an affordability crisis here in the U.S. Donald Trump purported to deliver a speech to lay out his case to the American people a few days ago, but he failed dramatically. Certainly, there's no circumstance where U.S. ground troops should be sent over to the Middle East. This war is already deeply unpopular for obvious reasons among the American people, and the American people are not going to accept ground troops being put into harm's way in this war of choice when there's no clear evidence that it actually is designed to improve our national security interests. Instead, we see war that continues to escalate. More than a dozen countries are involved, and billions of dollars of taxpayer money are being spent overseas. The administration refuses to actually spend a dime to make life more affordable for the American people. That's Hakeem Jeffries. Now, Mike Turner revealed that he does not believe U.S. military ground troops will be necessary in order to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. During his interview with George Stephanopoulos, he said that the Strait of Hormuz would reopen naturally, or if it would take ground troops. He said in any conflict, certainly Iran is going to have some things that they're going to be able to do during the conflict. We had mentioned that earlier. I think certainly you're seeing that even as this conflict evolves, that this is being put into place. I don't think U.S. ground troops are going to be necessary in any direct conflict. All right. We got a couple things here about NATO and then a couple other things about Iran. We're going to be jumping around a little bit here because we still have a lot to get to. And I do want to get to New York State issues as well. Keep your comments, keep your waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
When you spend 100 years building chainsaws, you get really good at building chainsaws. So when steel built a mower, we built the chainsaw mowers. New blade, same bloodline.
We are the keepers of the wild. America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So Martin Gurry, I think this is important to put it into context. He said, as the war with Iran approaches the climatic phase, I would expect Americans to have a clear idea of what that fight is about. Instead, I sense some confusion. That is unfortunate but understandable. Donald Trump excels as a cheerleader, not as a teacher or explainer. He's a man bereft of doubt who has trouble understanding the uncertainties that haunt the rest of us mere mortals. And of course, the vast anti-Trump alliance has a stake in sowing confusion. The president has a mighty voice, but his opponents are just as loud, and they believe that promoting an American catastrophe, if it hurts Trump, would be for the greater good. So allow me, good reader, to cut through the Trumpian boasts, the fog of war, Democratic hysteria, and media falsification, and offer you simple answers to the 10 most important questions about the Iran war. 1, why did we attack Iran? That's an easy one. From its birth, when it kept our embassy personnel captive as hostages for 444 days, the Islamic Republic of Iran has been attacking the United States, both directly and through terrorist proxies. It has killed thousands of Americans around the world. Hostility to the great Satan, that would be us, is the reason for the regime's existence. For decades, every week, the Ayatollahs have led crowds in chanting death to America. It's the core of their ideological creed. Now they are developing thermonuclear bombs and missiles with the range to make their wishes come true. Past presidents tried economic sanctions against Iran. That was peaceful but ineffective. Other presidents tried to bribe the Iranians. That was peaceful and extraordinarily stupid. The peaceful options were exhausted. The Ayatollahs kept working on the bomb. Nukes plus missiles plus death to America is the reason we attacked. Number 2, why now? Victory, not fairness, is the object of every war. Combatants rarely wish to be proportionate or sporting. They aim to annihilate the other side as quickly and completely as possible. We hit the Ayatollahs when we did because they were in a vulnerable condition. Iran had just lost a 12-day war with Israel. That ended with the U.S. bunker bombing 2 underground nuclear facilities. That, in turn, was followed by months of anti-regime unrest and paralyzed the country, and only ended with the slaughter of tens of thousands of protesters. We could have waited until Iran picked itself off the ground, got its defenses together, stockpiled more missiles and drones, but we chose to attack now because Iran was weak. 3, is this an illegal war? Wars aren't subject to laws or court rulings. Institutions that pretend otherwise, like the United Nations and the International Court of Justice, exist primarily to punish Israel. A war is either just or unjust, and this is determined by the circumstances of the conflict and the moral valiance of the combatants. The circumstances of the present war are straightforward. The Ayatollahs had threatened death to America and were developing the means to achieve that goal. As for moral valiance, I happen to think the U.S. is and always has been a force for good in the world. Others disagree. Let's code the U.S. as neutral. But the Islamic Republic easily beats North Korea for the title of most abominable regime on earth. In the year 2026, the ruling clerics still have women stoned to death for adultery. They hang gays from cranes. They imprison, torture, and murder their own people in industrial numbers. They equip and train some of the bloodiest terrorist groups around, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, for example. In brief, they are death and misery to their population and to those unfortunate enough to be their neighbors. Any war that weakens or dethrones the gang of killers is more than morally justified. It's an act of righteous retribution. Number 4, is Israel calling the shots? I find it baffling that anyone can watch Trump for 60 seconds and believe he's being led around by the likes of Vladimir Putin or Benjamin Netanyahu. For existential reasons, the Israelis need regime change in Iran. Trump just wants a regime he can deal with. That's what he did in Venezuela, and he's attempting to do in Cuba. Israel is an amazing ally, but Trump's driving the car. If it suits his purposes, he will bring the war to a conclusion well short of regime change. 5, is the U.S. losing? Well, many clearly hope so. The Democrats, the news media, the Euro elites, and the anti-Zionist conspiracy mongers like Tucker Carlson. For them, this isn't a fight between a democratic nation and a terrorist regime. It's all about Trump, and they would gladly see the terrorists win big if it meant defeat for the president. But wishing doesn't make it so. Iran's top leadership is gone with the wind. So are the Iranian Air Force, Navy, and air defenses. Rocket launch sites and military industries have been degraded. The regime capacity to build a nuclear bomb has been set back for years. Militarily, the war is already won, but a political settlement will be tough and messy. And as I said, it's not just the Iranian theocrats who are rooting for an American defeat. It will fall on Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his diplomats to ensure that victory on the ground isn't transformed into defeat at the negotiating table. Number 6. What is the Strait of Hormuz and why should we care? It's a narrow bit of water opening in the Persian Gulf, a choke point for the 20% or so of the petroleum shipped from the region to world markets. In retaliation for U.S. attacks, the Iranians have closed the Strait of Hormuz to navigation. The consequence, spikes in energy prices, has had an unhappy effect on the economy. The Iranians care about the Strait of Hormuz because they believe it's their least viable weapon, or the last viable weapon, The Arab Sheikhdom care because they have to get their oil out the market. China and Europe care because they need the oil to feed their economies. Interestingly, the U.S., which is self-sufficient in energy, doesn't give a hoot about the Strait of Hormuz. We don't need it, Trump said in his televised address. For those countries that do need it, Trump had two helpful suggestions. Either buy oil from the U.S. or build up some delayed courage and get their naval forces involved to keep the strait open. 7. What's the story? This is a big one. With Europe and NATO. It's simple. Most NATO countries are ruled by Euro elites who utterly despise Trump. Their nations are economically weak and militarily impotent. They preach a world order ruled by abstractions, making a virtue of helplessness. Trump, who is changing the world concretely, terrifies them. They want him gone. In the past, when Europe got in trouble outside of NATO's area of responsibility, the U.S. faithfully came to the rescue. Serbia and Ukraine are two of many examples. At present, many European countries have denied use of their airspace and the use of U.S. bases in their territory in the war against the Ayatollahs. This has been accompanied by a loud screech of anti-American rhetoric. Some European governments, like that of Spain, seem to be actively siding with Iran. President Trump isn't a forgiving man. There will be consequences. 8. Do Russia and China gain from the war? They will gain mightily if we lose. But if Iran is either neutralized or converted into an American protectorate, Russia will lose one of its most useful allies, and China will find that importing the energy needed to fuel its massive economy will require American approval, specifically the goodwill of Donald Trump. 9. What's next? More of the same. The U.S. and the Israelis will continue to strike at a regime, personnel, and facilities until they run out of feasible targets. The one direction yet to be made is whether to mount an amphibious assault on Karg Island, terminal point for all of Iran's petroleum exports. Such an assault would entail the kind of savage fighting and heavy casualties that Trump has so far avoided. But the president is a totally unpredictable player. So for all I know, an attack on Karg has already been ordered. Number 10, how and when will the war end? The end of the war will either be negotiated with the Iranians or not. Since it would probably be suicidal for any regime figure to surrender, I'm betting that at some point over the next 2 or 3 weeks, according to the president, the U.S. and Israel will unilaterally declare victory and set the terms of a cessation of hostilities. Those terms will be harsh: a ban on nuclear weapon development and the acquisition of medium and long-range missiles, a limit on drone production, a break with all terrorist proxies, and continued sanctions until the Iranians come to the table. Should the terms be ignored, hostilities will resume. But as long as Trump is president, that threat will be taken seriously. The only question I have is whether the terms will include a warning of retaliation should the regime resume its favorite sport of mass murder against its own citizens. Will it truly be a victory if the same American-hating zealots keep control in Tehran? To the extent that Iran remains a nuisance, the dimensions of the victory will be diminished. If the regime is rendered harmless for a span of years, however, that would count as an object lesson in the perils of ticking off Uncle Sam, and a major triumph not only for the U.S. and Israel, but the entire region and all peaceable nations. And if the brutal rule of the Ayatollahs is extinguished and the Iranian people are set free, this military intervention will be judged to be one of the most successful in history. Alas, wars rarely deliver such happy endings. All right, I thought that was an important one. Now, 2 Republicans question the point of the feckless and weak NATO allies, while leaders in Western Europe seemingly took the calculation that publicly rebuking U.S. President Donald Trump was in their best political interest, given their largely left liberal bases, growing Islamic populations opposed to any actions taken alongside Israel, and perhaps a belief that the MAGA base would split on the war, it appears that they have only succeeded in uniting the top brass of the Republican Party against them. The resistance to Trump began from the onset of the conflict. We don't need to go through all of that. But Jacob Janda, director of the Prague-based European Values Center for Security Policy, said that if the U.S. withdraws from NATO, Europe will be missing the most essential military capabilities and capacities for its defense against Russia. He said that Europe would have to ramp up defense spending to between 5 to 10% of the GDP, and that even if that were to happen, Europe would still need significant time to build up its military, industrial, which he estimated would take 3 to 7 years. In the time window, we would be a very weak victim that Russia could happily pounce on. So it's our vital interest to slow down the American withdrawal from European defense, even though we have strong disagreements in various areas of policy. All right, we got to take a short break. And we're going to jump around. Where do we want to go from here? Oh, I got a quick piece. I like Jonathan Turley, and there's a good quick piece by Jonathan Turley that I want to get to here about Pam Bondi. Then we've got something from Karl Rove on Pam Bondi. Then we'll get to New York State issues. So stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a quarter inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. We got a lot of viewer comments here. Let's get right to them. Come on, Frank. How does the MAGA crowd continue to believe anything that Trump says? Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie, and you know it. Yesterday's threat was that of an 8th grade kid in a street fight. Now he says the strait being closed has no effect on the USA. If so, why are our gas prices as high as they have ever been? Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was thinking the other day when NASA launched the rocket for the moon back in 1969 and years to follow, it was all over the television, and yet today, hardly anything. If I want an update, you have to go to NASA's website. That's very sad. Yeah, there hasn't really been that great amount of coverage, is there? I would agree with you. Comment from Ken. What the Democrats have done to divide this nation, all to gain power and wealth, is more than criminal. During World War II, the nation was unified against the upheaval of communism. People happily endured food, gas, clothing rationing, and shortages, and took in steel, aluminum pots, pans, and many other materials to scrap collection areas to help the war effort. Today, in the hopes of stopping a terrorist country from getting a nuclear bomb and the means of delivering it to the American people, the left and many on the right are crying about an increase in gas prices, which, by the way, are still less than they were during the last 2 Democrat presidencies. If the Democrats and legacy media stayed their course on dividing America for political gain, I fear our country is doomed. Thank you, Ken. I do appreciate that. An important message. Well, it's like that piece said. There's some in the media that really want to see us lose this war because it would look bad for Trump. Now, Jonathan, hold on real quick. I've been good this morning. I've been good. I haven't had to sneeze. Jonathan Turley says there's an old joke that scientists switch from lab rats to lawyers because you do not get as attached to lawyers. President Donald Trump has shown that same tendency to avoid becoming attached to either private or government counsel. Attorney General Pam Bondi is only the latest in a long line of lawyers let go by a president who was made famous with the tagline, "You're fired." There's no evidence of bad blood between Trump and Bondi. The Attorney General had been attacked over her loyalty to the president and had been by his side in some of the most precarious moments, from impeachment to criminal defense. And his apprentice learned this is not personal, it's a business. Jeff Sessions, Rex Tillerson, Bill Barr, Mark Esper, Kristi Noem. Trump's cabinet picks are known more for shelving than storage. Indeed, being a cabinet member in a Trump administration is about as secure as being a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Trump has always viewed termination as a way to spur higher performance levels. There's a reason why Trump may have wanted to move now in swapping out attorney generals. There are growing predictions that Republicans will lose the House and could lose the Senate. Democrats are running on pledges to unleash a new spasm of investigations and impeachment, targeting not just President Trump, but anyone who supports him. Figures like Susan Rice, top policy advisor to Obama and Biden, have promised revenge against all those who push Democrats out of power and warn that it's going to not end well for them. Senator Chris Murphy pledged that as soon as they gain power, they will start throwing Trump people in jail when they retake Congress. Democrat strategist James Carville previously threatened that collaborators may be treated the same way as they were after World War II. Trump's ability to secure confirmation of a successor will become far more challenging as he approaches the midterm elections. Trump has to decide who will be the best hand on the wheel in those choppy waters ahead. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has the street cred that Trump values. An accomplished litigator and former prosecutor, Blanche is neither flashy nor gregarious. He is a lethal litigator who could gut you like a trout without breaking a sweat. He has been at the president's side in and out of court. While he was lightning rod for Democrats who have attacked him for his role in the release of the Epstein files, his firmness in deciding or dealing with the hostile media likely appeal to the president. Blanche offers a seamless transition for the department. He literally only has to walk down the hallway to take the reins from Bondi. Zeldin's name, Lee Zeldin, has been thrown around. He would likely be the easiest to confirm and the most popular with members of Congress. Zeldin transformed the EPA in short order, including clearing away barriers to increasing energy production. Almost elected governor of New York, Zeldin has crossover appeal in Washington as someone who cut his teeth in the town. Other candidates include state attorney generals as well as wild cards like Jeanine Pirro, a former judge with a tough-as-nails reputation in Washington. But it's a deep bench. There will be no shortage of applicants for the job. The office of the Attorney General and the Trump administration has everything that one could want in Washington. Everything that is except job security. There you go. Karl Rove said Trump dropped Bondi, but the real political fight is just beginning. The Republican chairman may find it impossible to cancel her appearance now since Representative Nancy Mace led the effort to subpoena Bondi. She was joined by 3 other Republicans on the committee in voting with all the committee's Democrats to force Miss Bondi to appear. Yes, we shouldn't be surprised that the president dumped his attorney general, but her firing doesn't end the issue that led to her removal. It's just expanding the cast of political players who will now have to answer tough questions about those same issues. Get your popcorn. Pam Bondi's firing was just one episode. The next act of this drama is about to begin, says Karl Rove. All right, we got a couple New York State updates that we want to get to here. Did you see? Dozens of protesters in Albany were arrested at the Capitol. Does it have an impact? The answer is no. Carlene Pinto sat cross-legged on the floor outside the Senate chamber at the Capitol with 6 other demonstrators last week waiting to be arrested. Nearby, Brian McCormick, the co-director of the Columbia County Sanctuary Movement, passed through the almost 150 other demonstrators, each demanding that the Assembly and Senate vote on an immigration bill, known as the New York for All, that would prohibit state and local government agencies from assisting federal immigration enforcement. McCormick had coordinated the event with state troopers at the protest, where detention was part of the plan. When the legislature is choosing not to listen to the people, we have to show them who's the real power, said Pinto. It's a courageous act for our immigrant neighbors. State troopers arrested Pinto and 13 other demonstrators, charging them with disorderly conduct, a violation, after they failed to heed 3 dispersal warnings for blocking the entrances to the Assembly and Senate. A week earlier, 21 climate activists were arrested for doing the same in front of Governor Hochul's office. They demanded the governor not try to amend the state's 2019 climate law. After the protests, an implicit message emerged from state Democratic leaders. Protests are noted, but they're not influencing decision-making. State Senator Liz Kroger, an influential Democrat and chair of the Senate's Finance Committee, said she hopes the protests make a difference, but acknowledged it's hard for any single demonstration to break through at a Capitol crowded with constant demonstrations. I feel like I'm spending my day working on really hard, important issues, but it doesn't mean I'm actually aware of what's going on any specific day for what specific issues. She railed with advocates ahead of the sit-ins. Anyway, so does it work? No. The answer is no. We got to take a short break. A couple other New York State issues. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
I just love coming in after they've been here and seeing everything clean and tidy. It's such a good way to start the week.
Sometimes I wonder if they are magic.
I feel like it's the details that is everything. The being able to pick up on things that most people don't see or don't even think about.
House, business, or anything else, go with Magic Rags. The Enchanted Crew has you covered from ceiling to floor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. So on the last Friday of February, state officials met in Albany for their annual ritual, adopting an economic and tax receipt forecast to use for budget negotiations the following month. But the politicians and finance geeks who assembled for this subdued and uncommonly apolitical event were missing a key piece of information. They had no idea that the United States was hours away from war, and with it, oddly enough, a rare opportunity to make Albany a little less dysfunctional. The last 4 weeks have seen the destruction of Iran's ability to threaten its neighbors and the near closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Global financial markets are in turmoil. Fuel prices have surged, along with the risk of inflation. Yet that February forecast, known as the Economic and Revenue Consensus, has somehow survived. That means Governor Hochul and state lawmakers are, by all public accounts, counting on economic growth that might not materialize and planning to spend money that might not come in. The state's April 1st budget deadline has come and gone. State government remains open because lawmakers passed a short-term spending measure, giving Hochul and legislative Democrats another week to work out a deal. They're haggling not over the budget itself, but over unrelated topics, such as Hochul's efforts to chip away at New York's onerous environmental review process and its indefensibly high auto insurance costs. And they seem to be ignoring the looming problem. Where is the money in the budget coming from? Outside of federal cash linked to Medicaid, most of New York's receipts come from its highly progressive personal income tax. State spending has grown about twice as quickly as inflation over the past 8 years, thanks to a significant tax hike enacted in 2021, followed by stronger than expected tax revenues. But as E.J. McMahon warned this year, the state's tax increases on higher earners over the past 2 decades made it more reliant than ever on volatile receipts from the finance sector. It's increasingly unclear how things will look at the state, national, or global level later this year, and officials should be proceeding with extreme caution. Instead of grinding ahead, Hochul and lawmakers could work out an intermediate term deal that essentially extends the just end fiscal year to June 30th while settling how much state aid will flow to localities and schools now going through our own budgets. Albany could also give New York City relief from the state's unfunded class size mandate, which will crush the city's budget due by June 30th. Then they would require new revenue estimates later this month when the fog of war will hopefully have lifted. The calendar shift would bring a huge added benefit. New York is the only state that starts its fiscal year in April, a practice dating back to 1943 for a peculiar mix of long, outdated reasons. Fiscal years for 26 of the other 49 states and New York City begin July 1st. Meaning their state governments, unlike New York's, don't come to a grinding halt at the end of every March when legislative leaders are negotiating behind closed doors. Bring the Empire State in line with its neighbors would, come January, provide a reset to Albany's dysfunctional process. Here, the budget is treated as the best mechanism for forcing policy changes as part of a grand bargain over all things governmental, not just spending. That means far less collaboration and, more important, far less persuasion rooted in evidence. See, for instance, now the public employee unions are trying to slash the retirement age to 55 at a cost of over $100 billion without any justification, and while concealing the cost from taxpayers by cramming it into the annual budget deal. New York's governor have more leverage than most in the budget process. That was given to them by design to make a single man or woman accountable for the state's spending plan. But in response, legislators have stomped their feet and retreated from their duties of crafting laws and overseeing agencies. In some ways, that decay is Albany's worst sickness. Subject matter expertise among legislatures is rarer than ever and barely valued. State senators and assembly members routinely skip their committee meetings, then justify their truancy because the committees do little work of significance by historical standards. New York lawmakers put more effort into performatively cutting ribbons than cutting waste and red tape. Some lawmakers use public hearings or opportunities to show off their supporters, gracefully confronting perceived villains like Zohran Mamdani or MTA head Jana Lieber in pursuit of Facebook clicks. Meanwhile, the April 1st deadline, the governor and lawmakers could next year draw neater lines between spending and policymaking and wrapping up the legislative session well ahead of June's party primary. This certainly isn't the only reform New York's budget process needs. Cost estimates for spending proposals would be nice, and it wouldn't guarantee high-quality legislative results, but it would remove a big excuse for why New York doesn't get that. Now, we got to take a break and then wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
This is one of the busiest highways in America. Thousands of trucks travel up and down it all hours of the day, and big trucks can cause catastrophic injuries. That's when you need the power of William Mattar, the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. At William Mattar, we only handle motor vehicle accident cases, and we fight for big money and big results. Hurt in a car, only call William Mattar.
Walking Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us saying, we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
From snow to rain, that's what we're expecting here for our Monday. 30s to upper 40s expected for our temperatures throughout the day on Monday. Average high is 54, so we're still below average here in Elmira. We could be picking up a trace to about a quarter inch of snow through 7 p.m. on Tuesday, by the way. Looking at our forecast, wind gusts up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible Tuesday and also again on Thursday. Here's a look at your extended forecast.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, oh, well, Hochul shouldn't count her chickens before they hatch. If she needs money, she should back down from her foolish policies. Have a great day. Well, thank you, Mark. Have a great day as well. Ken writes in, I think we know why Kristi Noem is being changed from DHS to special envoy is a move to shed scrutiny. In Pam Bondi's case, could it be that an incredible opportunity arose in the private sector that she wanted to take? The job she is in might only be 3 more years, and taking a position that lasts longer would be beneficial for her. Trump wouldn't want the media to capitalize on someone leaving his administration, so the firing narrative could have been his idea. Imagine the media misinformation campaign. People are distancing themselves from Trump. Thank you, Ken. Now, Trump is weighing more cabinet changes, but wants to avoid a massive shakeup, according to anonymous sources. On the heels of the news of the firing of Pam Bondi, Trump wanted to make a very strong statement reaffirming his support for another official rumored to be on the chopping block, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. As a result, his rapid response account on X posted a statement from Trump's communication director saying that the president has total confidence in Gabbard and any insinuation otherwise is totally fake news. Gabbard is safe in her role for the time being, the White House official said. 2 others in his cabinet may be less secure. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick have both been under Trump's scrutiny for a possible exit, according to the same official. Chavez DeRemer, who is facing misconduct allegations that include an alleged affair with a staffer and drinking in her office, has so far remained in her role despite top officials in her agency resigning amid the scandal. And Lutnick's style of freelancing policy ideas and deals without prior approval has long prompted eye rolls from aides and others in the White House. According to people close to Trump, who also spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss personnel issues. Trump has discussed letting both of them go, according to the White House official. Reports of him wanting to do a massive shakeup are overblown, the official said. The firing of Bondi and Noem were each isolated cases after Trump spent time considering moving them out of their roles over issues with their respective job performances. He had been slow to give the edict for both, doing so after conversations over months. All right. Well, there's a piece, if Climate Fact Friday Bob is watching. New York's climate ambitions need a reality check by Advanced Media New York editorial board, saying negotiating changes to the CLCPA and the budget behind closed doors is far from ideal. That's how the sausage gets made in Albany, though. New York is one of the only 2 states whose climate targets are enshrined into law. That's why change needs to go through the legislature. The risk of climate change is real. Responsible public policy must balance the real cost today with the forecast benefits. The current costs have changed dramatically. The legislature should acknowledge that fact and work with the governor to revise the target. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you for all the comments, for all the waves. Make sure you join us all week long. Like I said, Wednesday we'll be talking with Sheriff Jim Allard, so get your questions in for him. Later on in the week, we'll talk with Don Berlew from Watkins Glen International. So if you have any questions for those guests, please feel free to send those to me ahead of time. We'll add them to the list. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, starting at 6 a.m. I look forward to it already.
An accident can turn your life upside down in an instant. Pain, medical bills, time off work, it's overwhelming. And when you look to the insurance company for help, they don't see you. They don't see your family or what you've lost. To them, you're just a number. just dollars on a spreadsheet. Their job is to pay you as little as possible. At WYDC Injury Law, we see the person behind the claim. We fight for your recovery, your future, and your peace of mind. If you've been hurt in New York, call 607-500-HURT.